Start the recording. Okay.
Welcome to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Since we're socially distanced, I think, and in order to be heard, I think we don't necessarily have to wear our masks. And I've also received no direct communication about this. At any rate, that's just for the record. Welcome to the BZ Board of Zoning Appeals, March 8th. Thank you. There it is. Welcome to Madison's Board of Zoning Appeals meeting, March 8th, 2021. Could we have a roll call of attendance, please?
Scott Baldwin.
Here.
Mark Acosta. Nancy Burkhart.
Here.
Rick Ferris.
Here.
Daryl Henderson.
Here. And board members, have you had opportunity to read last month's minutes? Are there any corrections or additions? If not, we'll take a motion to approve last month's minutes.
I move we approve as written.
And a second.
Second.
And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Minutes are approved. And we have a few renewals on our agenda. Actually, we have 5, so I'll read them all. And it's my understanding that the renewal fees on all of them have been paid. That's correct. So number 1 is the White Barn Venue conditional use permit for the operation of a rustic barn venue with emphasis on weddings located at 501 Thomas Hill Road, residential agriculture, 1-year renewal. No complaints, renewal fee received. Number 2, Glenna Hanks Wade, conditional use permit for a guest house located at 620 West 2nd Street. That's an historic district residential, a 1-year renewal. No complaints, fee received. Number 3, Sedum Contracting LLC. It's a conditional use permit for location to accept dirt, concrete, asphalt for reuse, recycle, sales of stone, sand, landscaping products, and rental of construction equipment and supplies located at 2910 Wilson Avenue. That's in M1 or light industry. Another 1 year. No complaints. Renewal fee received. Number 4, Steve Buchanan, a conditional use permit for a 4-bay self-service car wash located at 814 West 3rd Street. That's in local business. It's a 1-year renewal. Again, no complaints. Renewal fee received. Number 5, Bad Apple Max LLC, conditional use permit for a restaurant located at 605 West Main. That's in Specialty District, a 1-year renewal. No complaints. Renewal fee received. So we have 5 that met all requirements. Do we have a motion to renew all these conditional uses?
I'll make a motion that we renew the 5 applications as read.
You have a second?
Second.
And we'll have a roll call.
Rick Ferris.
Yes.
Scott Baldwin.
Yes.
Nancy Burkhart.
Yes.
Daryl Henderson.
Yes.
Moving on, new applications, we have 2. And the first one on the agenda is Tony and Sue Langdon. Are the Langdons here? Somebody? Oh, would you come up to the podium then, please, sir?
Okay.
And for the record, give your name and address and explain what you have in mind. And I think it's okay to take your mask off
Okay.
if you wish.
My name's Tony Langdon, and I've been asked to do a porch variance at 3981 North Old State Road 62 in Madison. So that's why I'm here.
So your desire, I understand from your application, you're putting on a remodeling a house.
Yes, sir.
Putting a 8-foot deep by width of the house porch on.
Correct. It's 32 foot wide, so it had a 12 by 8 decided to go with a 32, and I called and talked to the folks that were doing the work and didn't realize for sure that I needed a
Variance.
yes, and so forth. So Brian had made me aware of that then at some point down the line, and so we're trying to take care of those requirements.
And of course, variances go with the property, and that may make it easier in the future for bank
Yeah.
loans or whatever.
Yes, sir.
And the issue is being a little bit too close to the right-of-way of Old State Road 62.
Yes.
Board members, do you have any questions? Any comments?
The road, or the porch that was on it previously, how far out did it go?
Also 8 foot.
Oh, okay.
It was no change in the distance from the center line or whatever to the front of the porch. It's the same.
You're
The
just
only-
extended it the other way, correct?
The expansion went lengthwise and just covered the entire front of the home as opposed to the center portion. So it's 20 additional feet in width.
Board
Yeah.
members, any other questions or comments?
The only other thing that I was concerned with was safety if you're going around that corner. But then you have that lot next to it that gives you plenty of space to see cars coming around. And
Correct.
extended it that way. So
I
don't
feel
see a
so.
problem.
Plus, not to mention, if you noticed in the photo there's a 15-mile-per-hour speed limit sign there. Most people are either slowing down in that curve where I'm located, or they're starting from a stop sign, just feet from the porch. So
And it's gonna be an open porch, right? It's not gonna be an enclosed where you can't.
not
see.
enclosed, but it does have, a covering. So,
Mhm.
but we didn't feel there would be a big situation there, but we just want to make sure everybody's happy. So,
Drove out there and looked, and
okay. Well,
it's pretty open.
it is, and, we're just trying to improve the, I told my wife, I said, it's sort of like some of the folks that go to the, and save animals, rescue, that type of thing. I feel like that house has been one for us, It wasn't in too top shape to start with, but since Jeff's not here, I guess I could say that. But I've tried to improve it, and it's going to cost us probably more before it's all over with to get it done that way than it would have been just to tore it down and start it over. But
So that old porch was just unsalvageable?
oh, it was terrible shape. It was. You always talk about the safety issue part of it. I mean, it was bad shape, and it was leaking and over the ceiling part of it and everything, and it just was a no-brainer in my mind to upgrade it.
Did we send out green cards on these also?
Yes, we
Yes.
received them.
Pardon?
We did receive the green cards for those.
Yeah, I sent everything out that was required, and it's all been received and turned in to Variance, so hopefully everything's good there.
Board members, any other questions? Last chance. Well, then we'll move on to our findings of fact. You can have a seat, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Variance from development standards is what this is. Number one, will approval of this application be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community? Mrs. Burkhardt.
No, in fact, I think he's making it more safer. He's got a porch that's non-salvageable, and he's just extending it in a different way, same proportion, going towards the roads he had before, so I don't see any problem there.
Mr. Henderson,
I see no problem.
Mr. Ferris.
I don't see any issues either. I drove past there yesterday and looked at it, and there's no obstruction of view or anything that I felt could even be construed as a problem.
And I'm in agreement. I see the safety issue. I don't see anything there. Certainly not the general welfare. Number 2, will the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance be affected in a substantially adverse manner? Mrs. Burkhardt.
No, if anything, he's improving the property, so I don't see a problem.
Mr. Henderson.
I agree, I think he's improving the property.
Mr. Ferris.
I agree as well. I think, had they not invested in renovating this property, then it would be, affected in an adverse manner.
And I agree, upgrading and improving houses does not hurt property values. Number 3, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. Mrs. Burkhardt.
Yeah, I believe so, because, he's using the same footprint of the 8 feet that he had before, and that was a questionable, the zoning variance there. So I think if you changed anything, it would be practical difficulties.
Mr. Henderson.
I believe it's fine.
Mr. Ferris.
I agree as well. I think the original porch that was there, and not being, usable, being able to replace if they weren't able to replace the porch, I think it would result in, practical difficulties.
And I agree. I don't think he's expanding his porch, at least more toward the road. He's just making it wider, which is a very common practice in country houses. And I see no problems there. Number 4, is this request contrary to public interest? Mrs. Burkhardt.
No, in fact, as we said before, he's improving it, he's improving the looks of it, he's improving the safety of it.
Mr. Henderson.
No.
Mr. Ferris.
No, it's not contrary to public interest. In fact, it's in the public's interest that they are investing in the property.
And I think that was well stated. Upgrading a house is not against public interest. Number 5, are there conditions peculiar to the property? Mrs. Burkhardt.
I'd say yes, just because he's got the footprint of the 8 foot, he's just extending that along, so I think that's the only peculiarity.
Mr. Henderson.
Yeah, I'd say yes too, because the house was obviously built before zoning.
Mr. Ferris.
I agree as well. I mean, we see these cases many times where we're dealing with an older property and the setback to the center of the porch is not up to the current requirement yet. It doesn't result in any harm to the adjacent properties or to the public interest.
Conditions peculiar to the property. Who knows how long ago that original porch and house were made. And the proximity to the street and the beginning of the turn to come onto New State Road 62, which possibly wasn't. I don't personally don't know if that was there, which could have made a difference. So I think there are sufficient conditions that are peculiar to that particular property. Number 6, are the peculiarities to the property a result of the applicant? Mrs. Burkhardt.
No, as stated before, I'm sure the house was there prior to him coming into it, he's just trying to improve the property.
Mr. Henderson.
No.
Mr. Ferris.
No, I don't believe they're a result of the applicant.
And the only thing he did was buy it, so I don't think that that's a result of the applicant. Number 7, will owners sustain an unnecessary and undue hardship? Mrs. Burkhardt.
Yes, I'd say it's an unnecessary hardship, and it wouldn't be able to improve the property.
Mr. Henderson.
Yes.
Mr. Ferris.
Yes, the literal enforcement of the ordinances would result in an unnecessary and undue hardship, just because of the age of the structure and
unnecessary. In my view, he's merely replacing an existing porch, which is a part of the house. It seems to me that not having the porch would be just unnecessary. We've gone through our findings of fact about this variance from development standards for the setback requirements. Do we have a motion to approve this?
I move we approve the variance as requested.
Second.
We've had a motion and a second. Could we have a roll call?
Rick Ferris,
Yes.
Nancy Burkhart,
Yes.
Scott Baldwin,
Yes.
and Darrell Henderson.
Yes.
The motion's passed and the variance is granted. And next on the agenda, oh, here we are. Kim and Jeff Kennard, variance from development standards, a setback variance for a 0 lot line setback in order to build a back porch. And that's at 506 East Main Street in the Specialty District. Do you have someone here to speak for or against that? Yeah, or to speak, excuse me, for it.
For it, yeah.
For the record, could you state your name and address and then what you want to propose to do?
You turned it off.
Oh, I turned it off. Sorry. So Kim Kennard, and the address of the property or where I live?
Oh.
506 East
okay.
Main is the property in question. The modification?
I
Specific
think
to the-
since you're socially distanced, if you want to, you can take your mask off while you're speaking.
Thank you. So that the project specific for the zoning is adding a porch on the southeast side of the back of the property. And there's, I think, a 1 foot, it's the same roof line as what the existing roof structure was. The entire back of the house was completely dilapidated. So as part of the repair and putting a new roof on, we wanted to we added a back porch. It's gonna be a patio.
And I understand the existing house was within about a foot or so of the lot line, or is you right on it?
It's really close. So it's next door is a law firm. So I think that it's about, I can look at my paperwork in my bag, but I think it's 12, ours is like 12 inches maybe, like it's less than a foot. The entire house is.
And of course, the house has been there a while.
Yeah, I think it says 1840, I believe.
I did walk around your house, and I peered down that, I don't even know what you call
The
it.
gangway. So Courtney lives behind me, and then Cookie, her mom, and then my mom came as well for support. So the person that has the biggest view of the property is Courtney, who lives behind me. So she came in support as well.
So the gangway's part of your property?
It is our property,
But
yes.
I didn't realize that even was part of yours. I thought it was part of Courtney's.
Yeah, no. So it's on our deed. Because that was one of the things when we were considering whether or not to purchase the property, was to make sure that there was an easement, or to make sure that we had access to the backyard through the street. And so we couldn't find the easement, and then we looked at, and it's on the deed, it's deeded to us, yeah.
Before we go, you were supposed to bring in green cards that had been mailed out. They brought them? Okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay, so I
that's good.
gave them like,
And when I looked back there, the only word I could think was a labyrinth. So all you're doing according to your pictures and application is over here. You're merely following the line of the house,
correct,
which was already within, it's supposed to be 3 feet, but that was within about a foot of the lot line.
yeah, it's the same way on the other side. I think it might even be closer, it's closer on the other side to the appraisal office. Not the porch is not close to that, but the house itself is. The porch is only on the one side.
Let me ask you, what's that other little structure opposite of where the porch is?
It's like a mudroom, so I don't know
So
how,
it's part of the house?
it's part of the house, so it was there,
It was just odd looking at it in the pictures, I just wondered what it was.
yeah, it's a mudroom, so it was there. But it was definitely added on at some point in time, I'm sure, because you can see, because we had to strip the drywall that was in there because it had mold, it was black mold, or just mold, it wasn't black mold. But, and you can see siding, so it must have been added on at some point in time, but we did not do it, and it predates us, and who knows how long it's been there.
Board members, do you have any other questions or comments?
So there was nothing there before, no porch or anything, just added it on, just have some
There
extra
was a
space outside.
big bunch of gravel. It's, I mean, the back of the house was just, and there was piles of windows and doors and trash, and, I mean, that's what was there before. Yeah, there was not a porch, not a structure.
Yep.
Yes.
Any other questions, board members? Okay, thank you. Would anybody in the audience like to speak for or against this?
You sit down.
You can't.
She have to go up there. Yeah, does she have to go up there?
Yeah, you have to go up there just for the,
Courtney.
be kind to our cameraman.
Hi, I'm Courtney Richmond. I live at 324 East Street, and I'm here for their addition to their porch. It looks really good, and I can see it from all of my windows in the house, so it's nice to look at.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anybody else in the audience like to speak for or against? Any board members, one last chance. Any questions? Well, in that case, we will move on to our findings of fact. Variance from development standards. Number one, will approval of this application be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community? Mrs. Burkhardt.
No, I don't see any problem there. She's improving the property, her neighbor's on board with it, I don't see any problem.
Mr. Henderson?
No.
Mr. Ferris?
I agree with the previous comments.
And I see no injury to the public general welfare by adding this porch in that particular spot. Number two, will the use and value of the area adjacent to the property, including the variance, be affected in a substantially adverse manner? Mrs. Burkhardt.
No, as was said before, she's improving the property, so I think she'd improve the neighborhood.
Mr. Henderson?
No.
Mr. Ferris?
Yeah, I mean, I agree that the neighborhood and the adjoining properties will not be substantially affected in an adverse manner. Anytime we have investment in these older properties, it's a good thing.
And I see no adverse effects on the areas adjacent to the property. I notice to the east there's already a fence, and it's so typical of downtown, it's all surrounded, so I see no problems there. Number three, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. Mrs. Burkhardt.
Yes, and I think we deal with this quite a bit downtown, especially in the historic district with 0 lot lines, so I think that's yes.
Mr. Henderson.
Yes, I think it's fine.
Mr. Ferris.
I agree as well. I think the strict application does create practical difficulties for the property owner.
And of course, the practical difficulty is it was built long ago, a foot from the lot line. It's not their fault, and they're only trying to improve it up to a more modern standard. I see practical difficulties. Number four, is this request contrary to public interest? Mrs. Burkhardt.
No, I don't believe so. I think it'd be hard for the public to see unless you go down the gangway, which does give nice access in case you need to go in there.
Mr. Henderson.
No.
Mr. Ferris.
I agree with the previous comments.
I see no harm to public interest in upgrading enclosed property like that. Number five, are there conditions peculiar to the property? Mrs. Burkhardt.
Yes, so we stated before, 0 lot line the house is on, and she's just extending it, so yes.
Mr. Henderson.
Yes, it's a 1800 construction, and Downtown Madison.
Mr. Ferris.
I have nothing to add, so I will agree with the previous comments.
And I agree, it was laid out in the 19th century like so much of our downtown. And they didn't have zoning back then. So there are ample conditions peculiar to it. Number 6, are the peculiarities of the property a result of the applicant? Mrs. Burkhart.
No, she bought the property, and like I said, the property's been there for many years.
Mr. Henderson.
No.
Mr. Ferris.
No, I don't believe it was the result of the applicant's actions.
And a result of the applicant? No. It was, the house was made long, long ago, and all they did was buy it. Number 7, will owners sustain an unnecessary and undue hardship? Mrs. Burkhart.
I believe so. I believe it's an unnecessary hardship that she wouldn't be able to improve the structure that she bought and have some nice outdoor covered entertainment area.
Mr. Henderson.
Yes.
Mr. Ferris.
Yeah, I agree. I think the hardship is that they wouldn't be able to improve their property and invest in it.
And I think Mrs. Burkhart stated it very, very well, and I agree with that. And we've gone through our findings of fact about this variance for setback. Do we have a motion?
I move we approve the variance as requested.
Second.
And we have a roll call.
Rick Ferris,
Yes.
Nancy Burkhart,
Yes.
Scott Baldwin,
Yes.
and Daryl Henderson.
Yes.
Your variance has been approved.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Moving on to the rest of our agenda. Under old business, Lucas Soul, conditional use permit for a mobile home located at 2761 East State Road 56. That's in residential agriculture. That was a 1-year renewal. And the issue was his fee had not been received to renew it last month. And instructed our building inspector to go and try to contact him.
I wasn't successful in person, but I did speak to him on the phone today. He said it just gets past him to remember it, but he said he'll have someone come in tomorrow to pay it. He did ask, just given his history of forgetting, can he potentially ask you come to the board at some meeting and ask to do a renewal every few years over more than just a single year renewal.
And we have done that on a couple of occasions, so if he comes here and asks for that, I think he has.
I would like to look at the property before I make that call.
Of course. Well, then, given what you told me, I move that we table this until our next regular meeting, and Mr. Soul will have the opportunity to appear and ask for changing of terms of his conditional use. And if he pays his fee by our next regular meeting, his current conditional use permit will be renewed. That's my motion.
For 1 year.
For 1 year, yes. That's my motion. Is there y'all got it? Did I make it clear enough?
So that gives him a year then to put a strategy together, how he's gonna sway us to extend his, the term of his.
No, the intent of the motion is that he has promised to come in tomorrow. And let me withdraw that motion and rephrase it since it's never been seconded. I move that we approve this conditional use for 1 year, contingent upon Mr. Soul's paying of the fee before our next regular meeting. That's my motion. That if he pays his fee before the next regular meeting, it will be renewed, otherwise he will have to reapply.
For 1 year renewal.
for
I will
1 year
second
renewal.
your motion.
We have a roll call?
Rick Ferris,
Yes.
Nancy Burkhardt,
Yes.
Scott Baldwin,
Yes.
and Darrell Henderson.
Yes.
And of course, as I mentioned, I don't think we need a motion, but we have had other people come in and ask for changes to the term of their conditional use, but we've always required that they appear and make their case.
But in that case, then does he have to reapply?
I don't think so. I think if he appears, in my opinion, if he appears, or if he pays his fee, his conditional use will be if he appears before our next regular meeting, the intent of the motion was that it will be renewed for a year. And then you can discuss it with our Mr. Martin can discuss it with him that he can appear, and I think it would be acceptable in my view that we could amend the term.
Would we ask him to do an actual application, kind of per Mr. Henderson's comment about, that way you guys would be made aware of the property and you could look at it prior to that meeting? So that, advance notice?
Yes, I'll put that in the form of a motion just to make it clear. I move that we permit Mr. Soul to appear before the board at our next regular meeting and ask for a longer term of renewal of his mobile home, or his conditional use for his mobile home, at which time we will consider it.
I'll second that.
Okay, can we have a roll call?
Rick Ferris,
Yes.
Nancy Burkhardt,
Yes.
Scott Baldwin,
Yes.
Darrell Henderson.
Yes.
And of course, that would have to make it clear that the motion was he appears next month. And that his current conditional use with the 1 year period will be, renewal is contingent upon paying his fee before our next regular meeting. I guess, just for the record, under old business, just for the record, conditional use permits for Loda Henderson at 3169 West Black Road, Miller Automotive at 1215 Clifty Drive, and Harold Perry Jr., 212 6th Street. They have all paid their fees per our last meeting's motion, and their conditional uses are renewed. And that concludes all the business on our agenda. Is there anything else?
I move we adjourn.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed no. Motion carries.